I know, thesis sounds like school, and well, I guess that's because it has been even since ancient times. But that doesn't mean we can't still have some fun with it, right?
If you're new here, let me inform you that we will not be having fun. If you've been here before, though, I have questions.
Oh, don't worry about him, he means well.
I do not. I never have.
Sure, but hey, I know when I say thesis, you might think about having to write a thesis statement, or a big project to earn a master's degree or whatever else. But that's not what we're doing. Today, we're looking back to the ancient curriculum for speakers and writers, the progymnasmata, and to one of the final exercises that students practiced before they were ready for the hard work of real-world rhetoric in the courts and assemblies. And in that context, thesis was the name of an exercise that asked students, in the words of Hermogenes, to compose a consideration of some subject viewed apart from any specific circumstance. For thesis seems to take the place of a general piece of advice not directed to any specified person, but with quite general application to any person, basing its development solely on the attributes of things. So, for example, you might consider whether it is good to marry in general, and not whether it is good for Pericles or Alcibiades to get married. And teachers of thesis divided them into broad categories. On one hand, you have political or practical theses, like whether one should teach rhetoric, or, as already mentioned, whether one should get married. And non-political or theoretical theses on the other, like whether the sun is made of fire or whether the sky is spherical. The first group, they say, is the domain of the orator, while the second is the domain of the philosopher. But anyway, that's fine for then. I mean, it's clear to see, for example, how understanding the general contour of an argument about whether you should fortify an ally or not is useful for, when the time comes, making a specific argument about whether to fortify Sparta when the Persians show up. But what about us? What if we're not preparing for speeches before the Legislative Assembly?
Well, you could, for example, make a really good case for why practicing dark alchemy is a good thing, and then use that to defend yourself and explain why it's good for you to be using dark alchemy at a time when alchemical society is declining. Oh, wait. The Grand High Counselor didn't let me testify at my own trial. Never mind.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. I'm sorry that happened to you. Do you want to say more?
I never have. Why would I start now?
Okay, well, I mean, you could if you want to. But here are some ideas for applying the principles of thesis to your own modern writing practice. For a start, you could consider your artistic philosophy as a general thesis, and then your individual works as hypotheses, or the thesis applied to specific cases. So, for example, you might spend some time reflecting on whether it is good to show rather than tell, and obviously it is, but if you have a justification or a defense of that thesis, and it's ready to go, then you'll be in a much better position to explain your rationale for any given piece. Oh, why did you write that specific piece in that way? Because it's a particular example of my general approach to art. Cool, all right then. In fact, the poets have a whole genre dedicated to that, the ars poetica. It's a type of poem that articulates a poet's poetic philosophy and embodies it. So while Hermogenes, Aphthonius, and Nicolaus were all writing about the merits of marriage, maybe you're writing about the merits of meter or imagery or something else that you care about artistically. Maybe you take a step back from your own novel and just do some writing about your philosophy for what makes a good character or compelling dialogue or a meaningful scene. It's easy to get lost in the weeds of a project, so stepping back to practice thesis by articulating your guiding principles for the work can be more helpful than you might think. Then, when you have your general ideas about characterization solidified, you can go back and apply and adapt them to the specific instances in your book. Oh, but theses can also serve as seeds for projects too. A general argument about marriage prepared students to make specific arguments about whether Alcibiades should get married. So maybe you sketch out a little thesis about how good friendships can make up for difficult family relationships, and that could then inspire a short story about friends gathering for a holiday dinner without all the family drama. Maybe you have a general thesis about how being in nature heals the soul, and that thesis is manifest in a series of poems that reflect on specific experiences you had, watching geese on the river, bees in the meadow, and cardinals in the trees. Of course, if you're writing an essay, you might have things to say in general about overcoming insecurity and reaching out to people around you. Once you have that general thesis sketched out, you can insert specific examples and details that will turn your thesis into a compelling and literary hypothesis. But there's more. There's always more.
Unfortunately, that seems to be true. So much for clocking out early.
Part of the real value of thesis is that it teaches you the steps of defending an argument. If you know, for example, that Hermogenes makes the argument for marriage in general by talking about how it is just, advantageous, possible, and appropriate to marry, Well, then when you're consulting Pericles about his marriage, you can begin looking for specifically applicable instances of why marriage might be just, advantageous, possible, or appropriate for Pericles. And of course, if you know in general that you can use low camera angles, moody lighting, and scary music to make a villain look imposing on screen, well, then you can look for specific ways to use those general techniques to convince your audience that your villain is a credible threat. Sometimes artists like to act like there's no rhetoric or argument in their work. But let's be real. You may not be persuading your audience to give up beef on Mondays, but you're going to have to persuade them that your villain is in fact villainous, or that your poem is in fact sad. And when you have a good handle on general rhetorical strategies for evoking sadness or villainy, you can use those to help you create specific instances of sadness or villainy in your work. It's like those ridiculous arguments I wrote in school about whether or not we should have school uniforms or whether or not kids should take art classes. Making an argument about the general virtues of school uniforms is really not all that useful, but it is good preparation for making an argument about why your school should change its dress code. In the same way, writing a general framework for the qualities of a good protagonist is not usable by itself in a short story, but it's good preparation for writing a specific good protagonist in your specific story. Really, the value of the thesis exercise is that practicing things in general will help to make you better at doing them in specific.
Honestly, it's not even that big a deal.
Sorry, what?
Dark alchemy. Everyone lost their minds, but it's like not even a problem.
Well, do you want to say more about that now?
I don't know, are you done putting everyone to sleep?
Yeah, I guess pretty much.
Well then, sure. Here's my thesis of why it's not bad to practice dark alchemy. Let those who pursue the magnum opus accept the grand discipline of dark alchemy. For what is in the light is known, while what is in the dark holds promise. Indeed, the Trismegistus has given us much, so it is now our duty to advance this great labor. The gift of immortality is not to be found in dead elements, but in the examination of life itself, that realm of inquiry which remains in the shadow of the Council's ignorance. Dark alchemy is our great opportunity. For who is wiser, the alchemist who surveys the field already mapped out and known by all, turning again the same stones and wearing once more the same paths, or the one who ascends into the mountains and leads their fellow students of the cosmic order into lands previously unknown? Dark alchemy is the path to firmer minds, more robust bodies and finer characters. Testing our craft against the unknown is how we secure our future and save our society of inquirers. There are those who will say, but how can wisdom permit that an alchemist pursue such dangers? Fools, do not our apprentices daily face the dangers of furnace and vapor? And who among us has not spent hours lecturing our novices after ampules have exploded or the miasmatic aftermath of calcination left unattended? If danger were our concern, alchemy would be a dead art found only in books. But I fear it will soon be if we do not push our science into the shadow, beyond the knowledge already illuminated in the learned texts. But is it not a betrayal to leave our founders' wisdom behind? I honor your piety, my fellow alchemists, but is it not the greater betrayal to leave the founders' work unfinished, to confine ourselves to the domain of knowledge they defined, and to seek no more to advance our society or build on the knowledge the founders gave us? Before the Trismegistus etched his wisdom on his magnificent tablet, before the first attempt at congelation, all was darkness to the alchemist, and there was no light, until our forebears plumbed the shadows and returned with the principles of transmutation and the outlines of the cosmos. Dark alchemy is all there ever was. What we call alchemy of light is just the rehearsal of what is already known, a pathway to stagnation, if not our inevitable demise. Finally, though, I hear you. Dark alchemy is forbidden. It is in wisdom that the council and councils before it have prescribed the application of our knowledge to living matter. But hear me, siblings, do we not counsel our children to stay indoors once night falls, while we freely associate even outside the walls of the city in the light of the moon? Our institutions have abandoned their role as vanguards of the great work, choosing instead to become lecturing parents. Question, if you will, the wisdom of working against the council, but do not succumb to their pacifying and patronizing dicta. Are you children? Are you so incapable as alchemists that you must be withheld from the mysteries beyond the walls until the sun rises again? Do not disobey the council, fair enough, but push the council to reform, to recognize that fear of dark is a child's preoccupation. It is only by entering the darkness that we can expand the domain of light. the realm of alchemical knowledge and the salvation of our society. Indeed, the name dark alchemy is as needless as blue sky, for in the beginning the sky was always blue, and alchemy was always the work of bringing darkness to light. Well might the farmer forbid planting new seed, supposing that what grows now is all they will need. By pursuing what lies in the dark, we will expand our knowledge, build on the great legacy of our founders, and restore our individual sovereignty under the watchful guidance of a bold rather than patronizing high council. Dark alchemy, or more properly, true alchemy, will refine the individual and elevate our society. From the beginning, we have pursued the dangers and promises of the unknown. Stopping now is to end our quest prematurely and to condemn the art of alchemy to its end. Thus you see, as do I, that true alchemy is the way, the only way, to perpetuate the great work that we have only just begun.
Wow, you gave that speech?
Many times.
And how'd it go?
Well, gee, I wonder. I was arrested by the council, tried without a defense, and condemned to an eternity as a caput mortuum to languish in this cursed skull until the collapse of the cosmos. And, as a bonus that the council could never have foreseen, I ended up here, on this shelf, enduring the unimaginable torment of sharing space with a rhetorician. Yeah, I'd say it went pretty well, wouldn't you? Where have you been, bud? It's like you weren't listening at all during all the other videos about the progymnasmata where I was sharing my story.
Oh, and we're listening to each other now? Could you tell me what Ethiopia, encomium, or even thesis is?
Right, because the cosmic entity needs to listen to the little video guy. You would benefit from listening to me. I pursue the magnum opus, but there's nothing you could say that would improve my situation.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry the road that brought you here was so rough, but I am glad you're here. I think you make a good difference.
That's... How could you... This is ridiculous. I knew it was a mistake to say anything. Just end the video and leave me to sit here in the dark.
Is that what you really want?
You gone? Yeah, that's precisely what I want. I've been alone for millennia before, and I'm looking forward to being alone for millennia after. Maybe I'll actually get some work done.
Well, okay. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thesis might have originated as an exercise for training orators, but it still has some uses for us, even when it comes to literary writing. So I hope you'll give it a try and let us know how it goes. And hey, maybe step into the dark a little and learn something new. I'm sure our friend would appreciate it.
I've never appreciated anything in my life, and I'm not going to start now. Leave me out of it.
Okay, well, maybe we'll just give him some time for a little nap. I'm sure we'll all be in a much better mood next week.
That's it. Video's over.
Yeah, just a little rest, and he'll be right as rain. We'll see you then, and take care.